This game sold 1 million copies in the first 3 to 4 years.
That's unbelievable.
That is insane.
Why have I not heard of this before?
Because you were 2. And by the time you were...
But I mean, why is this just lost in the annals of video game history?
It
Why
is
do we
quite
only
sad.
hear about Quake and Doom and
That's right.
Wolfenstein? But nowhere do we hear about Descent. Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of everyone's favorite podcast, the Critical Arcade Podcast. I'm your co-host, Nick.
And I'm Dave.
Hello, Dave.
Hello, Nick. You well?
Have you ever gotten motion sick from a video game?
When I was younger, yes. Did you? Oh God, this is gonna throw you. Did you ever play or game or heard of a game called Magic Carpet? Like 1996, 1997, something like that.
No. I was still shitting my pants at that, that year.
It was fundamentally what you'd think it was. It was just flying around on a magic carpet, shooting dragons out the sky and stuff like that. That gave me motion sickness once. And then as a teenager, everything is fine. And then when you get older again, now I've found a lot of games give me motion sickness to some degree.
Really?
It sucks, yeah. Being an older gamer now, I swear to you, things make me go, whoa.
What, like VR games or regular games?
A bit of both. VR games do really mess with your head when you like get into your late 30s.
I know.
I swear. But yes, a little bit now, but not so much as a child. Why do you ask?
I get it. I got motion sickness one time in a store that had a VR set that you could try on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a sci-fi shooter type game. And instead of picking where you want to move to, like a lot of VR games do, you press forward on the analog and you run forward.
Okay.
I immediately got motion sick.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yes. That's so...
I mean, you're wearing this VR headset, moving. Your eyes are seeing you moving forward.
Oh, you're going forwards, but you're standing still, like kind of like.
That was some motion sickness I was not ready for.
It's still a problem in Oculus. The Oculus Rift. No, not Oculus Rift. What is it called? The Oculus.
Yeah. The Meta Quest.
The Meta Quest and all this. It was still one of the biggest problems is motion sickness in all of them because
not surprised.
Of that same thing where. You just feel motion when you're not moving.
Yeah.
Which I know we'll get in cars, but it's kind of a bit more stable.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. I think it's going to be a very long time before people just...
Oh, agreed. Like, it's...
VR gaming's been around for a while. It's going to take an even longer while for it to really catch on.
But people don't get how long VR gaming's been around. It has genuinely been around for, 25 years. It's only getting perfected stuff now. But I remember Alton Towers, that was some of the arcades there used to have those big headsets and a fake little gun where you'd shoot an art gallery of targets and stuff like that. That was a full-on VR experience.
I totally get it.
And that was 25 years ago.
I mean, when did Nintendo's Virtual Boy release?
Oh, geez, yeah, that was actually quite a while. That was a while ago too.
It sucked, but that's VR technically.
Yeah, isn't it crazy that Nintendo was like, okay, we've done the NES. What's the next big thing? Let's just do VR.
Virtual reality. Oh, yes.
I love that leap. Like, yeah, let's put it on our heads and we can see it in front of our eyes.
And make everything red.
Yes, and then that's what Duck Hunt needs. It needs to be in depth and you need to be there. I love the idea of it. It did suck though. They failed hard.
We are going on a tangent.
We are, sorry.
I brought up being motion sick because of this week's game. Dave?
Yes, this week's game. Like we teased last week, this week's game is from 1995. Yes, it's 31 years old. And it was made by a games company called Parallax Software. And if anyone's as old as I am, they probably have heard of it. It's the game Descent for MS-DOS. Yeah, MS-DOS games. Jeez, can you remember? Oh, okay, I say, can you remember that? Were you around for MS-DOS? Like actual MS-DOS?
So... I grew up in the middle of absolute nowhere on a little mining town. There was nothing. We had a PC and it had MS-DOS. I had zero idea what to do on it.
Oh yeah, MS-DOS was hard. MS-DOS, you kind of need to know like programming language to kind of run things.
Yeah.
I miss it. Like was it C:\install enter? Then you have to like install the exe file and it was good times. It wasn't great times trying to do that again. Like it wasn't the easiest to get this game running.
We've gotten so used to graphical user interfaces and operating systems like Windows.
It took like for this game, I also used my joystick, and that took about 45 minutes to get going because the joystick is also from about maybe like 2000. So that took a long time to try and set up and get working, but it was well worth it.
That is.
But yes.
Are you so okay? We'll get into this in gameplay, I'm sure, but you played this with a joystick.
Yes. It's the only way you could play it. Because back in the day, you used to, like just play it with the mouse, which was just scrolling up.
Yeah.
It was horrendous. I played many games. I'm sure everybody out there who's as old as I am can remember that. You had to do that noise with your mouse because you were just scrolling up and down. TIE Fighter, the Star Wars games, also had that same problem. It was horrible to play on a mouse, but you had to get a joystick. And this is one of those games that, again, is so much better on a joystick because it has, like I said, we'll go into visuals, but it had a very genre-defying aspect to the visuals and gameplay of this game that no other game did back in the day.
That's the thing. This game was kind of a pioneer for a couple of things.
I was shocked by that as well. And not only that, did you know that this game was so popular that 4 years later, there was actually a trilogy of books released based around it?
What?
Yeah. Peter Tellep released 3 books called Descent, Stealing Thunder, and Descent Equinox. I know. I kid you not. This game sold 1 million copies in the first 3 to 4 years. Which today's standard is nothing.
That's unbelievable.
Right? That is insane.
Why have I not heard of this before?
Because you were 2. And by the time you were...
But I mean, why is this just lost in the annals of video game history? Why do we only hear about Quake and Doom and Wolfenstein? But nowhere do we hear about Descent.
But that is kind of strange because you're right. It really did get kind of lost in the Doom, Quake, Commander Keen, Duke Nukem type era of gaming. It did.
Even Half-Life stole some of its thunder.
It is like we joke about like how popular or how important what this game was actually insanely important to the gaming industry as we are now. Like. Oh, no, yeah, before giving too much away. Do you know, I remember my dad bringing this back from work. My dad worked at some sort of tech company years ago.
That's a special memory. That's
nice. He brought back 3 floppy disks, and on it, just written in his handwriting, was Descent. And I had no idea what that was. And then he came home. It took him, 45 minutes to install it. Had that crunchy zip floppy disk whilst it was installing. And I remember being excited. And I found out this was 2.8 megabytes in size. So it was smaller than like an email nowadays. And that was the start of it all. That's when I started playing.
That's incredible. I can imagine you and your brother being quite excited for that entire 45 minutes.
Oh yes, no doubt. That was yeah, it's true. You're just watching that DOS screen just slowly install the files as it goes, and then we had to wait for it to say insert floppy disk 2, and then go, oh yeah, do it. Yeah, one thing, it was a good time.
I'm sure that you weren't excited for at the time. Might have been this game's narrative.
Yes. Okay, this is 1995, right? The narratives we had back then. We had a young boy on a pogo stick killing slugs, saving Mars. We had Doom Slayer, walking around through random levels, destroying demons of some sort.
Yeah, hell, and also Mars.
That's right. And we had... Duke Nukem jump. I bet you've never played the first Duke Nukem games, have you?
Never.
Yeah, so we had him jumping his ass around, just shooting aliens for, again, no apparent reason.
Yeah, and
this game doesn't really change that narrative too much.
No, right? but with all those other games, they kind of had a hook.
Yes, very true.
This game doesn't even have that.
Okay. This is set in 2069. This is our future we're talking about here. And I love this because you don't have a name. You're just the material defender. Oh, that's your job title. Sorry, you're the material defender.
Yes, and as we all know, we are our job titles.
Yes, of course. That's all we need. Who needs names? And you're hired by a big exec guy that needs to hire you to go and save all the mining facilities on certain planets and moons.
Venus yeah, I think it's
Mercury.
Mars, Mercury, Venus, Pluto, and Pluto's moon.
Yes, Sharon. Sharon, I don't know how you say it. But yes, it's called Sharon. I swear to you. But yeah,
we need to go into Sharon's mines.
That's right.
We need to destroy the viruses in Sharon.
Now this was big. This is interplanetary. We didn't have this. This was big narrative movement for us. We have to save all the the big corporate. We needed to save corporate.
Okay,
right?
wait, okay, Dave. This was 1995. I obviously wasn't ready for this back then. You were. Did this fit into other 1995 narratives?
No,
because you had Metal Gear Solid that year.
Okay, that's very true. I'll just give me a little credit. I was also only 8. What I saw was, ooh, colours. Oh, shoot it. Oh, next level. Like I can't say I was fully interactive into the story of this. Yeah. I didn't know this game had a story until doing this episode. I really didn't. I was shocked by it myself. So yes, you are it does have kind of a cool ending though, which I don't know if, spoiler alert, how many people are actually going to play Descent?
I don't think anyone's going to play this. And I also read about the ending, which I think is also quite cool, but how about you tell us?
Well, the narrative of this game is a lot of the mining facilities themselves become infected with some sort of virus that's turning the mining gear kind of against you, and you have to go blow up the cores and stuff like that.
Yes.
And after you've done everything, after you got to the end, and when you're supposed to get your 3 times your normal paycheck for doing such things, they tell you that you've been infected with the virus and that you can't come home or do any of that. And then it kind of alludes to Descent 2 because you're the only man who can now do it. And so you got to go get the job done because there's more mining facilities that are potentially under threat.
So this game kind of ended on a cliffhanger. It alluded to a sequel.
Yeah. Which is very big for 1995.
Yes.
It's not much now with multiple endings and everything else we got in games, but this was a big deal. This was like,
I can imagine. There's this big old twist at the end of the story.
Right,
Too bad
right.
you had to play the entire thing, which is about 15 hours to get there.
That's right. And there's no narrative in between the 27 levels. It's just beginning and then the end. That's all you get.
It does come across like the story feels like an afterthought. Because there's
of course.
no characterization, no real world building besides this corporation that's hired you. And there's very little reason to care because you're going into these places to destroy the virus and also blow up the nuclear reactor, destroying these mines.
Yeah, that's right. Because the virus can't get away. But it's actually, now I come to think of it, if you think of the movies back in the day, be it Total Recall or RoboCop, it's all very anti-corporate storytelling. So it was kind of the genre of the era was to be the good guy against big corporate
sticking it to the man.
Yeah, it really was. So I'm guessing this was just following suit what was popular with on TV and movies at the time.
Yeah, because at the start, with the dialogue between you and this big corporate suit, there's quite a lot of disdain in your voice towards this executive.
Yes.
Rightfully so.
Isn't it kind of weird that we're slowly turning back to that in regards to like PlayStation and Microsoft screwing gamers? It's weird. It's like a full 360 coming in. So yeah, that's the narrative. That's about it, ladies and gents. And you got to go save some miners if you're so inclined. It really
is. It is quite sci-fi. The story is kind of just there as a vehicle to get you to these levels to kill some robots, which is essentially what it is. And then after they made a story, there aren't any real themes.
No, not really.
There aren't any like real dialogue.
No, there's not even like a girl for you to save. So you can do the whole, like,
damsel in distress. No, the setting is just Mars.
Yep.
Mercury.
Nice.
There's not a lot there. So I scored it quite low.
That's sad. That's sad, but it's sad, but it's true.
I think.
Anything else then?
No, not really. Do you think they expanded on the story in the books? They must.
Oh, they did. They did. And I know they expanded the story in 2 and 3 as well. There was a Descent 2 and Descent 3 for PC that got released later on.
Oh, wow.
And they did expand the story quite a bit. This was just the testing the water to see if anything stuck kind of thing. And then they slowly developed it later. Which makes sense, by all accounts.
I think the part that they really did kind of blow out of the water would be partly the visuals.
Yes. This was the big thing we alluded to at the beginning, right?
Yes.
What actually, you've got to give Descent its credit.
You have
because
to. Its
visuals did a thing that no one else was doing. It was how many axes? Is that 6? 6 degrees of freedom, right?
Yes,
up, down,
this was
left, right,
6 degrees of freedom. Up, what was it? Up, down, left, right, back, forward.
And I don't know, spinny spin.
Spinny. Just it's completely disorienting. But what I was stunned to find out about the visuals for this is the very first true 3D shooter game.
It really was.
Very first one.
Because people forget, go on.
If you go take a look online to what the first true 3D game was, Google's going to say it's Quake. It's not Google. It's Descent.
Would it say Quake? Is Quake like the first? I'm trying to think. I understand why
it said it was Quake, and Quake released 5 months after this.
Oh, really?
Quake,
is it that close?
Yeah, Quake was the first fully polygonal true 3D video game with modern first-person shooter controls.
Yes, that I can see that.
That's the distinction everyone keeps forgetting. Descent was the first true 3D shooter, but it wasn't modern first-person controls.
It's quite funny because people forget that the original Doom actually wasn't 3D, right?
No,
because
it wasn't.
they used what's it called, billboard sprites. And because they always face you as you're going towards them, it kind of felt like there was another dimension to them. But they were just all 2D images that moved backwards and forwards.
Yes,
obviously.
yeah, oh, absolutely.
But like you said, this had fully 3 dimensions, navigatable maps.
These enemies were polygonal.
Yes, they were. I know it's weird that we're glazing this game because there were shapes that had fronts and backs and tops to them and stuff like that. But it was
see the arms.
This was big. This was a big deal.
Really
Even the bullets they shot at you had dimension to them. When you dodged them, the lasers were a line. The bombs were a round spheroid that was coming at you. And I do love that this game, when it was released, had a warning with it, because of its high resolution and that most PCs couldn't play it. So it was allowed for only high-end computers that push visuals up to 640 to 480 pixels. Ooh, that's some...
Slow down there, buddy.
Right? That's like calculator.
Yeah, this game's going to make you press the turbo button on your tower.
Which is crazy because I remember selecting those resolutions on games when I was a kid. Like, that was the peak. I remember that being peak.
Yeah, just put on your sunglasses and say to yourself,
it was a good time.
Gaming.
You flexed when you said you had 640 to 480 pixels. And again, did you know that the actual the ship you play, the Pyro GX, right? The like it's kind of a rough looking ship. Do you know that was so popular that they had t-shirts, posters, little model kits, stuff like that? It was the Normandy of today, like from Mass Effect. It was a super popular spaceship design.
How did history forget this?
I know, I looked back at it. You could buy t-shirts with it. There were posters and gaming magazines of the game. There was coasters, mouse mats and stuff like that. The actual ship itself kind of took off.
The history is doing such a massive disservice and injustice towards Descent. Everyone knows the Doomslayer. Everyone knows rocket jumping. Everyone knows just all the insane stuff happening in Wolfenstein. Nothing about Descent.
Well, that's what we're here for. We're bringing it back. We're going to make it go viral.
Yes.
People are going to stop thinking about Doom and Quake and Duke Nukem. They're going to pick up and play Descent.
Do it, yes, right after they share this episode of Critical Arcade. Gamers, rise up and share this episode.
This is the thing we need to be standing upon. Not stop killing games or anything like that.
Yes.
We need Descent to come back and be recognized for what it is.
We're being very serious right now.
This. And the only other weird thing, I joke, and it's fun playing these games in the past, but did you see how big the miners, the hostages and stuff were compared to yourself? They were huge. They're waving you down in their outfits, but they're 3 times the size of your ship, and they all just jump on board.
It's almost like they could pick you up and put you in their pocket.
I loved it. It's again, I've got plenty of nostalgia goggles with this. It's funny. It's quirky.
Yeah. We need more nostalgia goggles.
And they had some level designs. When you went to places like Mars and stuff, strangely enough, it was all lava-y, and in the cold areas, it was all blue. It used colours. It had a little bit of difference in its visuals and where to go and what to do and all that.
But you did become lost, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes, of course you did.
Of course it did. Like, that's in gameplay. But yeah, definitely. Okay, you got
These
lost.
Are mazes. These are mines.
The hardest part of the game is the last part of each level, I tell you.
I couldn't do it.
But anyway, anything else visual-wise, or should we go to audio, Mr. Audio Man?
I do think, well, there are a couple of things visually.
Go on.
Besides this being generally a historical, technical achievement with the polygonal environments and the enemies, I also like the first-person cockpit view.
Oh yes, that's a classic. That kicked off the two in regards to the Wing Commander and TIE Fighter and stuff like that. Yeah, that was a big thing too.
It's so nice.
Very popular.
It's quite immersive, and I can imagine back in 1995, that level of immersion is
no doubt,
quite
no doubt.
appreciated.
This was big. Big? Every time I say this was big, I just want to say big in Japan. I'm sure it was big in Japan. But yeah, this was a big thing. I think I was just too young to fully go along with the wave of it. Like everyone talking about it in the schoolyard. But I'm guessing it did happen, especially in Europe where I came from. Anything else?
No, we can move on to audio.
Audio, your favorite part. This 1995 game blew you away with its audio, right?
So
it must have done.
First of all, this did have a surprisingly strong soundtrack.
Yeah, it's true. I thought so.
Right. I was listening to the soundtrack on YouTube, which is available, and you should listen to it.
That's crazy. That's so cool. It's on YouTube.
It is.
I didn't know
that. How about this? The original DOS release used MIDI music.
Of course.
I've explained on the show what MIDI is, but that's just digitalized versions of what you think an instrument should sound like. So if you hear a MIDI saxophone, that's not really a saxophone. That's just an old computer trying to sound like a saxophone.
Yeah.
But it's what sound cards were able to produce back then.
And the restraint on floppy disks and just the actual size of the files themselves,
correct.
Right? Yeah.
1 year later, in 1996, the PlayStation 1 and Mac versions upgraded the soundtrack to CD quality audio.
Is that a big jump, by the way, like in regards to just quality of what it is and what you can do?
It's not necessarily a big jump, but it's much, much, much larger potential. So they could get this recorded in a big old grand studio to get it to sound better, or they could just upgrade to nicer sounding MIDI sounds.
Yes. So, clean it up a bit so it doesn't sound so crunchy and stuff like that.
But the big one that the PlayStation 1 and Mac versions added that the original DOS version didn't have was voice acting.
Was it good? Because I played the DOS version. I know you played the PlayStation 1. Was it good?
Of course not.
Was it not? Was it just read from a script, or was it actually someone going?
No, it was Jerry from accounting. Absolutely.
No,
that's good. That's what we want. I don't want professional voice actors all the time.
No, but I kind of want to think like that the one guy that did Descent in 1995 just turned out to be like James Earl Jones or something like that. I just want to go,
okay,
no way!
I like that too.
But yeah,
you
I
just
get it.
find out it was Keanu Reeves all the time.
Yes, that's what I want. I want to do a random tidbit of like, wow, like, no way, it was him. But yeah, I understand. It was just Joe from accounting. He had some lines to read.
I saw that the DOS version just had a still image, but no, the PlayStation 1 version had like a cutscene.
Yes, they're like the first part. I have seen it. Yeah, with the text rolling across the
besides
screen.
that, it's still, I enjoyed the soundtrack for this a lot. It sounded like in the MIDI version that we had used a lot of synthesized future sounds, just space sounds to make it sound like this. Yes, you're right. This is a sci-fi game. But also, it just had a MIDI as hell sounding guitar solo in the middle.
Yeah, no, I heard that one too. Yeah, it's got that kind of like arcadey sci-fi feel to it, right? Like the.
Oh yeah, that's a good way
right?
of putting it.
It's kind of got that arcade vibe type soundtrack to it.
That's a great way of putting it. Did you know? Can you guess how many composers this game had?
Jeez, it's quite funny to say composer because I think orchestra and stuff like that in front of that, but like with MIDI files. I know one, like one composer.
Yeah, because most games,
the
vast majority of games, have got one composer.
Yeah, to lead, and then musicians do follow the composer, right?
Incorrect. Interplay hired 6 composers.
Oh, isn't that too many? Chefs spoil the pot or whatever.
That is very true. This could have been extremely easy to have too many cooks spoil the broth.
Yeah, right?
But no, for some miraculous reason, these 6 composers were just good at communicating and staying out of each other's way. This is a good soundtrack with plenty of variety, and it worked.
Isn't it crazy how like good team players and work together also seems to just diminished out society now?
Yeah, it turns out if everyone's a mature adult, things work.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't it just crazy that in 30 years' time you've got people fighting over? No, but I made that soundtrack. Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy where we've come. But yeah, that is a lot of composers for a MIDI disc 1995.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The last pillar that I'd like to talk about in audio before we move on to a big one is the sound effects. So there's nothing massive going on with the sound effects themselves. Bog standard, shoot, hit, explode, door sound, regular sound effects.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one thing that this game did, and I can't think of a game before this that probably did it like this.
Yeah.
But Descent, probably out of necessity, created positional 3D audio. And it was genuinely quite innovative at the time.
And that means you could hear something behind you, you can hear something in front of you. Or
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
So
and it's not just
it close behind you.
Yeah, it's not just like first-person games like Quake, where it's in front of you, behind you, or to your sides. No.
Yes.
This positional 3D audio also depicted sounds below you and above you.
Oh, that's crazy because the whole 6-axis thing.
Exactly,
right?
because of the 6 degrees of freedom, they needed to make this.
That's complex. If you think
Right!
the capacity they had back in the day and what they had
And
to
then
use,
let me just remind everyone listening that this released in 1995.
Yeah, that's mad. Like I was a young man. You were not even existing.
I was hardly.
But I love seeing things like that. It's always just fun to see where things come from and it develops and turns into and stuff like that. That's so cool. So in theory, that was one of like the benchmarks on like Dolby and all the things we have now, the surround sound and all the other things we have.
Yes. Yeah. It is a shame that history forgot Descent. Right? The audio here actually becomes part of the gameplay because enemies can attack from absolutely any direction. So they, out of necessity, needed to create tech that didn't exist at the time.
That's how it goes a lot of the way, especially back in the day. It's what they had to do. But you say like it's missing in history. I did find out that Good Old Games, GOG or whatever people call it.
Yeah.
Do you know that they have like a wish list system now or dream list system where they put up a bunch of old games that aren't on their platform and you can vote and then they'll talk to the
publishers. I had no idea.
Did you know that Descent was one of the games that was voted to do that, and that's why now you can get it on Good Old Games? Yeah, so there are a lot of kind of like there's a fandom out there that's doing its work to give Descent its chance.
I guess it just feels like it's always Descent, Doom, and Wolfenstein, but never. I mean, what did I say? Descent?
You just
no.
said Descent. You went
Quake, Doom,
exactly.
and Wolfenstein, and partly Half-Life as well. But nowhere in the conversation is Descent, which is equally, maybe even more important than those.
You never even heard of Descent before the list gave us this, right?
I didn't.
Right?
When the list gave us this, All Hail the List.
All Hail the List.
I had no idea what Descent was.
Yeah, and now you feel like a better man for it.
Right? I do absolutely. I am now an elitist gamer.
Yes, then you finally got it. You got your badge. You just ranked up. You just leveled up. Well
yes.
Anything else audio-wise, or should we go to gameplay?
No. Let's go to gameplay.
Gameplay, like Nick said, this was actually kind of revolutionary. It stuck to that same thing. There were aspects of kind of Doom-esque, where you had to go get the keys, the red key to open the red door, the blue key to open the blue door. You kind of had to get in, blow up some bad guys, blow up the core, which was inspired by Star Wars, I might add. The whole blowing up the core and then having to escape from the blast zone.
Yeah.
Did you know that was completely inspired by Empire Strikes Back in regards to having to leave the exploding...
No, I didn't. That's cool.
Was it Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi? They have to leave from inside the big spaceship to get out in the Millennium Falcon. So it was inspired by Star Wars, which makes sense. And it was the biggest pain of the arse of this game than anything. Oh my... Yeah. You know what? It's the same problem I had when I was 8. Back in the day when I played this. I remember playing this game, and the thing I couldn't do is remember how to get to the exit, or even find the exit. And I thought, well, that was 24 years ago.
Yeah, now
I'm a grown-up. I'm an elite gamer. This should be easy.
You should be able to get it.
I wish. Oh my god, how many times? Because ladies and gents, you get 45 seconds to escape. So you've set off the reactor, it's going to explode, and now you've got this 6 axis of freedom. What up is not up anymore, down's not down, you're left, you're right, which door opens, where the hell are you going?
Yeah.
And if you don't make it, you kind of restart.
It takes me about 10 seconds just to reorient myself and get out of the room.
That was one of the big complaints reviewers had back in the time, was how... Again, because this was a new thing, the 6 access thing, it disorientated a lot of people. Understandably.
Oh, I get it.
Because you don't, like I said, in space, it's a fairly common thing to say. There is no up in space, because up is only, depending on your orientation, you're within space. So it doesn't work that way. And this game perfectly embodies that, because you do not know where the hell you are sometimes when playing this game, or where you have to go.
That's true.
Didn't really have much of a dynamic map system to help you out, so it was all on you.
Well, I'm gonna contest that. I'm gonna argue with that point.
Yeah, but it didn't show the exit, did it?
No, it didn't show the exit, because that's not the map's job.
That's true.
Actually, it's kind of the map's job.
But it's kind of, in and out is kind of what kind of exhibits it you need a map for.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you think? I'm intrigued. I played this game before. I've got the memories of it.
We talked about the 3 dimensions of freedom, which is good. The huge sense of freedom. You can really just go anywhere you want in this mine.
Oh, very much so.
I think there's some nice exploration that is rewarded to the player.
That's very true.
Go look anywhere. You can find secrets. You can find items, key cards, weapons, ammunition, enemies, hidden doors, whatever.
Yeah, very true.
I think, yes, sure, okay, fine. The learning curve is quite large.
Right.
It does take a while for a person to just get to grips of how to play this game. But even with the overwhelming controls, the easiness of getting disoriented, I do think that if you can just get down how this game works, it must probably feel so incredibly good to fly around, shoot enemies. After I don't know 10 levels or so, you got this down.
You kind of get the gist, yeah.
Yeah, you get the gist. You destroy the reactor, and you make a mad dash towards the exit, which by now you know to kind of jot down where it is.
Yeah, classic jotting down like a notepad next to your gaming, which actually existed.
We all
back
did
in the
it.
day.
We all did it.
Yeah, that's right.
I think if you could just get past the massive learning curve, it must feel cathartic, ecstatic, just to get it right, just to be the boss of this spaceship. When up is not up and down is not down, you make it yourself.
But I must admit, as the comfortable gamers we are now, I wish there was like proper saving bits. I wish there were checkpoints and stuff like that, because it's you're right, when you win, you win, but when you don't, it's kind of like, God damn it. Like, where do I have to do that again?
Yeah.
But like you said, there were so many things about this game. So it even had a fully fleshed out multiplayer, which again was fairly rare. Like Quake is fairly famous for the multiplayer, but this came with deathmatch, just general co-op play, LAN multiplayer, which people out there remember what LANs were like. Even modem play, which I don't even know what that is, but it had it. What the hell is modem play? I don't know how that
works either. Maybe everyone just connects with the network.
I think so. Maybe it was maybe through the modem
or something.
So it was.
I don't know.
It was so big that you could play this in a LAN party. You could get lost together. Presumably, this had 27 levels. Like you said, there were 3 secret levels that you could find by shooting the doors, kind of like Dark Souls, when you just hit every wall to see if it's an illusionary wall. This had the same thing. There were secret doors behind just shooting mechanics that you had to do. And I do love about this later on. This game was so popular, it did so many numbers that the developers later said, okay, we gave you 27 levels. Now we want to run a competition. And they gave everybody else the ability to make levels.
Whoa.
So there was a competition in magazines, I think it was fundamentally just magazines back then, where you could build a level and then submit it to their website and they'd review it, and then somebody won. I can't remember what the prize was. And then later on, those levels were released in like a DLC package, for like a better
like a big old expansion pack.
Yeah, which you could then play, and they also added a few of their new levels to it just to put icing on the top, which is again, I just love the idea, just like a magazine, like a 2-spread magazine. Make your levels, win this cool modem and joystick or something like that.
And then a lot of people do, and then they talk to the developers, and everyone's in this nice big old room with some Cheetos and Mountain Dew.
Exactly. That type of stuff that was just innocent and fun and interactive.
That's what gaming needs to go back to. Not
agreed.
Just PlayStation cutting physical releases.
Yes. Well, yeah, I think.
We don't have to talk about that.
It's a different episode, that is. But yeah, it is. It is, like you said, it's very sad for what this game does, and it's not talked about much because it's all there. Like even you can beef up your weapons to almost godlike levels, but if you die, you lose it all unless you go back. Again, it slightly reminded me of Dark Souls because you could go back to where you died and pick up all your weapon upgrades and stuff like that you had before, as long as you remember where the hell you died, fundamentally. Also a pain in the ass trying to find out where you died.
And where the map comes to help.
Yeah, okay.
I think... so, ladies and gents, the map for Descent is just a big old wireframe of rooms you've explored. It tells you where a colored door is. It tells you where a colored room is. The thing that blew me away with this map is it was interactive. You can move the map around. Right. You can turn it diagonally. You can zoom in. You can zoom out. Sure, it's just white wireframes on a black background, but this map you can kind of move around to turn it upside down, see where you goes what. I was blown away.
You kind of had to do that because there's no up in where you are, so you have to orientate the map to which way round you are, so you know which way is left and which way is right.
Some way to kind of figure out where to go.
Like you said, it was well thought out though, because an immovable 2D map would have been fairly useless in a lot of the scenarios you got stuck in.
It's in the middle of it's in your pause menu.
Yes,
so
that's right.
Essentially, they had to keep the game in your current state in the game, in the computer's random access memory, and then in the pause menu, also emulate the map, which was interactive. And I can't understand how they got this to work on DOS.
I know. I love DOS though. I agree. It blows my mind and I have no idea to do it, but like I said, mentioning that it's so funny, ladies and gents, that we glaze like these simple like little things of just a movable map and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it is important in 1995. It
is absolutely important, and it was probably made in a room with 10 guys.
Oh, 100%. 10 guys, like you said, Mountain Dew, Cheetos, a half-broken air conditioner.
Instead of these highly corporatized buildings with hundreds of people.
Right, it was just like the good old times, so to speak. Good times. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else gameplay you want to add, or should we jump to performance?
No, I think we can move on to... I don't think I'm missing anything for gameplay. If I am, I am sorry.
Performance-wise is actually kind of an interesting one, because back in the day when this released, people did complain that most normal or like everyday PCs couldn't run it. So it kind of slowly became kind of like an elitist thing where like, oh, only rich people can play this game. Isn't that crazy?
Can your DOS machine run Crysis?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yes, I thought the exact same thing. The Crisis kind of system. Yeah, it's exactly it. Everybody else is playing Leisure Suit Larry. And people who are playing Descent. Ooh, yeah. I'm sorry. What's your butler doing next weekend? No, it is one of those things, which is funny. And there was actually quite a notorious bug in this game.
Oh, really?
Makes it unbeatable if it happens to you. If you, on the last level, if you don't do the requirements in the right order in regards to the door keys and stuff like that, the boss actually becomes indestructible. So you can't kill it. It doesn't matter what you do, it won't lose health. And so you cannot win the level, and it kind of screws you. You got to restart again. So that was also a big problem for a lot of people, because people actually thought that the game was designed so you couldn't complete it. Like, because you can't send a patch out. This isn't like, oh, I'll patch it out later. This was like, oh, okay, this is... So they had to release it in a magazine or via email. They had to send people what the bug was and how they don't do that. Do it this way so that people could complete the game. Because you didn't just send out a patch via updates and stuff like that. You had to tell people, oh, this is because you did it in this order and you're supposed to do it in this order. And then, of course, you could complete the final boss and save the day and stuff like that. Which was also a big problem back in the game. I didn't have any problems with either. It did run fine, surprise, surprise. And yes, I didn't even get to the boss because I still couldn't find my way out of a plastic bag by all accounts in this game.
I mean, same here. But
go on.
Performance issues? I didn't get anything. I think we've been glazing the performance of this game this entire episode. That's the importance of the technical achievement for this game,
yes, is off the charts.
It really is. It really is. These large, fully 3D environments, an interactive 3D map. One thing I even forgot to mention during gameplay is for all the controls, all of them are fully remappable.
Wow, for the PlayStation version.
Correct. I don't know if this is the same case on the DOS version. I played PS1.
I can't remember. Yeah.
All the controls you can remap. So if this is an uncomfortable button layout that they've given you, you just change it.
That's kind of cool. I didn't know that. Like I said, that's a big upgrade. Yeah. I can't remember if you could remap the joystick ones because it's fairly simplistic. I don't think you ever had you could. But that's cool. Agreed. Remapping of your controller back in the day. Very cool.
Yeah. This was even made to run on the PlayStation 1 controllers that didn't have analog sticks yet.
Oh, I completely forgot that some place. That's true. I forget the PS1 didn't have some.
Those
that's
PS1s
mad. That's
had
mad.
No joysticks or
that must
sticks.
be nightmarish. Yeah, to use the D-pad must have been insane. Oh, good times.
It's not great.
Okay, value for money. What did you think?
So this one I'm on the fence about, and I can't make up my mind. This was a completely unique experience for 1995. There was nothing else like it. It had loads of playtime, lots of levels to complete. If you like the gameplay loop, there's tons of it here for you to enjoy. But
very true.
It was difficult to recommend at full AAA price. $60, I don't know. I don't know about this. The controls won't appeal to everyone. The environments are bland and repetitive.
They are a bit.
And I think it's better appreciated as an important piece of gaming history rather than the other games like Doom and Quake, which are much more approachable even today.
Agreed. They are super.
I'm on the fence.
Well, like it has about 6 hours like playthrough time, which is big for like a floppy disk game in 1995. That was actually quite a long time. I do love to see that it is also on Steam as well as good old games. So I love the idea that people have access to it. I know there was a big it was on Steam and then was off Steam because the publishers were annoyed that the developers released it. But then it came again, like we said earlier, then they just had a chat in a room, they sorted it out, and now you can get it again. $6 I thought was a bit much.
No, you know what? I'm choosing to look at it as $6 for a part of history.
Yes, okay. It's like admission to like a museum or something like that.
Exactly,
right?
just to get to look at this piece of history in a museum. I'm not expecting that $6 to give me just, this fully functional game that I'm going to play for the weekend. No, that's not what those $6 are for.
No, I got you. And if you got the physical versions nowadays, even the PlayStation 1 version or the big box PC version, that we used to have big boxes back in the day, came with the floppy disks and stuff aside, they're worth like $80 to $90 now if they're in a fairly decent condition. So there is a collectible side of it if that's your type of thing. But even I had problems for like, again, do you need to be our age to really enjoy it? I always try to think what it'd be like if you were a teenager sitting down and playing it.
Maybe in this case, yes.
It's just not really there, is it? It's not one that's going to keep them pulled through by playing a labyrinthian thing.
Like I mentioned earlier, Quake was the one to introduce modern first-person shooter controls.
Yes, very much so.
This wasn't that.
No,
there was a reason.
No,
the reason people remember Quake is because of the modern controls. These controls weren't modern, and I think which is why younger people would enjoy Quake rather than Descent.
And I think after like 1995 and a few years later, the whole flight simulator thing kind of started to die off, and like you said, first-person shooters started to kick off.
Yeah.
So it all kind of got replaced by all like real-time strategies and Command and Conquer and Red Alert and all these stuff started coming into play. So I think it kind of just could have got lost in the whole miasma that was all the games coming out back then. But it's all right. It is what it is. It's like I said, from the old person says you've got to play it, but the young person in me says you're going to be bored. I don't know what to say.
Back then, this would have been worth playing simply because there was nothing else like it. Today, I think I appreciate it more for what it contributed to gaming.
Agreed. I think so too. It's another history lesson in the gaming catalog, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so after all that, what did we score it? How did this bad boy
Our scores for Descent. We're having another peaceful day, going about our day jobs in the mines of Venus, the planet.
Nice. Not in the mines of Sharon, but yeah, in the mines of Venus. Yeah, go on. Sorry, I threw you off. Sorry.
Venus.
Yes.
In the mines of Venus, going about their day when all of a sudden bzz, 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 they can hear, oh no, a piece of electronics is just going haywire to the side. And that's when people find out, oh no, some of these robots got infected with a virus. So all of these robots started, I don't know, killing or imprisoning these workers. I'm not entirely sure.
A bit of both, I think.
Yeah, but they caught one and they locked him up in his own little cell. And he was quite alone. And he was the letter grade rating of C+. I never know where these stories go.
Yeah, they are a roller coaster. They're a labyrinthian sometimes in their own right.
But C+.
Same score we gave Soul Calibur 3. Same score The Long Dark, the walking simulator type. Same score as Ninja Gaiden 4.
Ooh.
Or Gaiden, depending on
you know what? I think C+ is good. Good game.
Agreed.
When you get into B- territory, that's when you kind of need to sit upright for a game.
Yes,
but C+ is still good.
That's right. It's like one's pay attention, one's like enjoy the ride type thing. Yeah, C+ is great. I think it's deserved that. I have lots of nostalgia goggles. I'm glad Nick enjoyed it kind of as much as he did, because
I did. You know,
I was shocked.
Excuse me. Rather than just enjoying the game, I think this is one of gaming's most important forgotten innovators.
And I think I learned that too, because my only memories of it was when I was 8. So I had the kiddie brain. I didn't know it was such a big movement until researching this game for the podcast. So yeah, agreed.
I can't believe how much of gaming history you were there for.
Yes. It is hard to believe how old I am. I find that hard to believe every day too.
I only read these things on blog posts.
On stone carvings and in caves written on the wall, right? That's where you've seen them. But yes, it is quite nice to see, like, I'm sure when you get older and your kids ask you about Zelda and stuff like that, you do the same thing. But yeah, it is always nice to be at the cornerstones of some of the big gaming things.
Even if you just realize it later.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, C+. I think that's a very reputable game. I think everyone should give it a go if you're into those types of things. But I would recommend a joystick. If anybody has a joystick they need to dust off, by all means, I say dust it off for this one. This, it's got that nostalgia and everything.
Even if it is just to kind of experience what changed gaming, what pioneered the industry into a new direction 30 years ago.
I agreed entirely.
Oh yeah, but thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Critical Arcade Podcast. You can press the buttons, the red one, the green one, all the subscribe one, the like, share one. Do it.
Do it. That's like that Sugar Babe song, right? Push the button. In that song, am I young? I found young and trendy by doing that. They had a song.
No, I think you're right. It took me a while, but yes.
I'm
not going to sing it. I'm not going to sing it.
No one wants us to sing that song in this. Like,
push the button push all the buttons. Let me know. Are those the lyrics?
Yes, they are. I don't know. But then I was being trained. A music reference. That's rare for me.
Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like and follow all of those fancy stuff. Or don't. We don't mind. Dave, where can we follow you?
Well, you can find me out and about, but during the first part of this game, after the big corporate guy kind of like craps on you and tells you your thing, I actually sat down with him. I thought maybe he needed a second chance. Maybe we needed to chat about a few things. And now I've seen the light. I know the way things do. So I will also conscript you into a long life servitude in basically a flying space coffin, where you will only run between Sharon and other moons of Pluto and just keep flying through them, blowing up over us, and never come home, never speak to anyone, never actually have any human touch or relation ever again. Just the emptiness of space as you slowly kind of rot and die, and the coldness of space itself. There you go, see? It's a cheery one for Descent. I'm glad I pulled that one out of nowhere. There you
go. Hell no. I'm disinterested in that.
I'm disinterested in that. That's yeah. I think that's what everyone else is thinking. I don't want to. I'm disinterested in that type of thing. But yeah, anyway, yes, if that's what you do, by all means follow me. I can make that happen.
Rather, Dave, tell us, what have we got lined up for next week?
Next week we have, again, one of the things Nick and I'd enjoy the most. It's our Indie 500 game.
Hell yeah.
And the indie game for this episode is One Step from Eden, which I don't think I've ever heard of. But
I've no idea what that is.
Which is great. This is kind of the fun point about indie games. It's putting a spotlight on games that nobody may have heard of or know about. And it may be gems,
And
right?
one of the reasons we started this podcast, to play more games.
And and again, we all know out there with all the corporate greed that PlayStation and Xbox and all the other things are going out there, indie games is where you should be putting your love.
Oh, absolutely.
This is where we need to put our money, our wallets, and all the other things. This is where we need to give it. And we
if the video game industry is gonna crash, the rising phoenix is gonna be indie games.
That's right. That's where we go for our warm, fuzzy feelings again. Yeah, exactly. Tune in next week for One Step from Eden. 2020 indie.
We'll see you then. Cheers.
Cheers.